When a flower blooms in the darkest rooms, does anybody realize how beautiful it is? And when a bright light fades to a dull gray, does anyone remember the light that it once gave? You wanted to travel the world and be the best you, but the world took your soul piece by piece until you were gone too. Your face used to brighten cold hearts, but now you're just a cold and beating heart. And you believed you could face them, but the weather ripped you apart. Oh, little girl, I'm sorry no one heard your cries. Oh, little boy, I'm sorry to hear they took your life. You were such a bright force, trying to burn brighter than they'd ever seen. You were a victim of bullies and circumstances. You were an easy target who got no chances. The day they took your life, the world lost your light. But can you be a testament? So the next time someone listens, and this never happens again, rest in peace. You are beautiful, you are easy to love just the way you are. You are worth your life, you deserve it, you can move past your scars. You have big dreams to travel the world and be the best you. You are a warrior, and you can face this storm. You can get through this even if you're battle worn. Oh, little boy, talk to someone to mend they hear your cries. Oh, little girl, only you define you. You don't have to die. You can be a testament, so the next time someone knows it's possible. And no one ever has to lose you or them, or anyone ever again. Rest in peace, senseless tragedies. Rest in peace, senseless tragedies. These are senseless tragedies. If you or someone you know is suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 to speak with someone now. If this is an emergency, dial 911. Senseless tragedies. These are senseless tragedies. Rest in peace. Suicides are senseless tragedies. Hello everybody and welcome to Karaoke Live, Friday Night Live number 44. It's our Suicide Prevention Show, part 1. We're doing a 2-part series. It's a special 1-hour show tonight, but we will pick this up again next week. We've got a really great show tonight, filled with a bunch of facts, suicide prevention, songs, just awareness, and including an interview with Barbara Arnwine. So, I am going to share the live stream now on my Facebook, and so that hopefully others will join us. If you're watching, you can comment now on how your day is going. As we begin to dive into this very important topic. So, let me just share this. These are senseless tragedies. Senseless tragedies. And I have to also use the computer to view your chat. And we are just going to post this right now. Sorry for the delay. And now, hopefully others will join us now, as that's posting. So, like I said, today is our Suicide Prevention Show. We have got a good show for you. And so the song you just heard was one of my original songs called Senseless Tragedies. It was kind of an abridged, shortened version. And it's really just about kids that commit suicide in school. So I had a neighborhood friend who was a kid. She was in high school, and she was really, really torn up one day when she found out that one of her friends actually committed suicide. And the boy had been being abused by his parents and was picked on by school, but she had talked to him quite a few times and, enough to consider themselves friends. And so I remember every year on the anniversary of when he committed suicide, it was really, really hard for her. And so I just wanted to pay respects to the children in school who, even though like things for us might seem really small, to them everything is so big. And even if it's not as big as abuse or bullying, even if they're not being picked on, they can still feel the weight of the world crushing down on them. And so once again, if you or anyone you know is contemplating suicide, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number at 1-800-273-8255. They're available 24 hours a day, and they also have an online chat. So, like I said, things that seem small to you might seem really big to someone that's going to school. For instance, divorce. That is a huge issue for kids no matter how old they are. When they hear their parents are divorced, it's a big thing. I remember when I was only about 5, or maybe younger, like 4, when my adopted parents divorced, and it hit me really, really hard. And then, sometimes parents, if you have your baby mamas or baby daddies, even if you're not divorced, whatever you call each other, your children's mother, your children's father, sometimes parents, even if you don't get divorced or are never married, they tend to put kids in the middle. And that can leave kids feeling really, really bad about themselves in ways that maybe you didn't expect. So to that end is my poem, Daddy's Little Girl, that I wrote in 2010. So, you tuck me in, you tell me goodnight. It's all good feelings, it all feels right. You tell me you love me, I say it too. I feel so unconditionally as I say I love you. But I remember the days when you two were still together, but peeking around the corner, the horrible fighting for always and ever. I remember playing baseball out in the field with you and my sisters. I remember running through the rain at your call to get back home drenched but with laughter. You told me the door would always be open, that you'd never leave me, and I didn't understand how all this fun could suddenly leave me empty. Divorce, what a cruel thing, how I only saw you once a year. After we moved on my last day of kindergarten, thus voiced my fears. But what is this now, number 21? As I count down the months of silence, since I had run, since I had went. How could you lie? How could your love be so pretend? How did the good times all pass by, and yet none the wiser when it all came to an end? I cried, I tried to die, I cut my arms mercilessly, still you won't love me. But I'm stronger now, though still struggling in this world, struggling to believe somehow that I was never Daddy's little girl. So things like that seem really small to you can actually seem really, really big to children. Or even if you're not children, 2010, so I was about like 17 or 18 when I wrote this, and had a huge fight with my adoptive dad when I was 13, and even though I was so young when they were divorced, still all the back and forth really affected me, and it can affect kids that aren't depressed, and then this is what caused them to become depressed. So you just have to know to look for the signs and pay attention to your children. And it's not that just paying attention stops when we're kids or when we've grown up, because we can get into relationships and those can also cause us to have really hard times. So another thing is domestic violence. This is a really big problem in the LGBTQIA community especially, and we don't talk about it enough. And also among black women, it's a huge problem as they feel, and white women, as they feel that they've got to protect their men and uphold the system of patriarchy that we're in. And whether you're conservative or liberal or independent or whatever your political views, domestic violence doesn't care. If you get into a bad relationship, you can face emotional abuse and domestic and physical violence too. That can leave you questioning things. And that's why you have this next song that I wrote, As Long As You Feel Like a Man, when I broke up with my ex in 2013. This is a song to all the ladies who have ever been hurt physically. And this is a song to all the men who think it's alright to hurt us again. 'Cause you say it's love when we say we've had enough. You say I did it because I love you. We call it abuse as long as you feel like a man. But how can you sleep at night knowing you destroyed my wings to fly? Broken wings and bruised things, shattered hearts now we're falling apart. Hold us in your cage every time you manipulate, saying it isn't that bad, it's alright. While I'm bleeding, crying, you sleep like a baby. We lie awake every night, but as long as you feel like a man. So do you feel like a man, knowing you're stronger than I could ever be? And when you lift me up, throw me around and stuff, but somehow you think it's lovely. So do you feel like a man, seeing how I screamed and ran in the humiliation, how everyone saw me, my tears streaked face, the world just isn't a nice place. So I take up my knife, sworn to take my own life, all because of your hand, but it's alright. As long as you feel like a man, as long as you feel like a man. Yeah, it's alright to use your hand as long as you feel like a man. Yeah, baby, I say it's okay this time. I don't dare run away, thinking you might go crazy. It's a sick obsession, love until the death of us. And that's the way you said it. If I can have her, no one else can. But as long as you feel like a man. But how can you sleep at night, knowing you destroyed our wings to fly? Broken wings and bruised things, shattered hearts now we're falling apart. Hold us in your cage every time you manipulate, saying it isn't that bad, it's alright. While I'm bleeding, crying, you sleep like a baby. We lie awake every night, but as long as you feel like a man. So do you feel like a man, knowing you're stronger than I could ever be? And when you lift me up, throw me around and stuff, but somehow you think it's lovely. So do you feel like a man, seeing how I screamed and ran in the humiliation, how everyone saw me, my tears streaked face, the world just isn't a nice place. So I take up my knife, sworn to take my own life, all because of your hands, but it's alright. As long as you feel like a man, as long as you feel like a man. Yeah, it's alright to use your hands as long as you feel like a man. As long as you feel like a man. Yeah, it's alright to use your hands as long as you feel like a man. And when we go through things that make us question whether we want to live or not, it's a couple things that have gotten me through my own, experiences is if you are a Christian or believe in a higher power, well, I mean, it really applies, I guess, if you're Christianity and you believe, if you're into Christianity and you believe the Bible. I know for me, what worked was, and I know it doesn't really make any too much logical sense, but for me, what worked was that I thought to myself, I gave myself to God when I accepted Jesus in my heart and became a Christian. So if I'm God's, how can I steal something from him that's not his? If I took my own life, then I would essentially be stealing from God. And when I was a kid, that kind of helped me to put things into perspective and make me think I have a bigger purpose. I'm here for something. And so that really helped to get me through, because I don't want to just talk about the doom and gloom on the show. I also want to talk about, prevention and things that you can do or think. And then another instance, I was sexually assaulted in Baltimore while I was homeless. But I had fought so hard to not die in that moment, but then afterwards wanted to. And I told myself, no, you wouldn't have fought for your life if your life didn't matter to you. So I was able to get some sense of worth and be like, I am worth something. And I can't let others win, and I wouldn't have fought for myself otherwise. So those are just some of the ways that I have dealt with if you feel suicidal or if you're dealing with depression throughout my life. I'm in a very good place right now, so nobody has to worry about that now. But so just like in the same vein, as we get older, and even if we're younger, a lot of times we feel like we don't want to go to therapy, or we don't want to talk about depression, we don't want to talk about mental illness. and we don't want to open up to anybody. But it can be really powerful when you do open up, because sometimes you feel like demons are inside of you, and that if you just had a break, and sometimes things are a cry for help. If you see somebody cutting themselves, or if you see marks on them, or if you see signs that they're always sad, and sometimes there is no signs, but sometimes there are signs that you can tell, and most of the time we ignore it or we don't want to deal with it. But if you really see something wrong with your friend, or just somebody that you know in general, you should give them the suicide national hotline, this National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. They're available 24 hours a day and also have a 24-hour chat online. Again, the number is 1-800-273-8255. And if it's an emergency, you can also call 911. So to that end, this next song is also one that I wrote. It's called Demons Inside of Me. So, and I'm reading old poems that I posted on Botsy.com. So, tell those demons to go. There's better things in store. Just let those demons know they can't have you anymore. Demons inside of me, let me be. Don't plague my heart no more. Demons inside of me, set me free. I don't want this war. Demons inside of me, let me be. Don't plague my heart no more. Angels of heaven, set me free. I don't want this anymore. Cruel and heinous was the night that I don't dare to tell. Words and demons that filled me with fright, resembling hell. Fire was deep in my soul, the devil's advocate whispers in my ear, and evilness filled me whole, betraying all of my worst fears. Living is the only option, all illusion has run away, but the angels on high prayed for me to win this cursed battle that led my weakened heart astray. And God picked me up at this place, led me into his abounding grace. He looked and listened and saw my pain, and he said, don't worry, don't be afraid. Just tell those demons to go. There's better things in store. Just let those demons know they can't have you anymore. Just tell those demons to go. There's better things in store. Just let those demons know they can't have you anymore. So a lot of the time, sometimes it can feel like you're wrestling within yourself. And, there was a case where a girl was convicted for pressuring her boyfriend to commit suicide. The boyfriend had been talking about it off and on, and I guess she got sick of hearing him talk about it. And so she pushed him, and the messages are just awful because she keeps telling him, no, this time you're going to go through with it. This time go through with it. This time go and go into that car. Yeah, just like you planned. Now turn on the gas. And he had bought all the equipment, but she just kept pressuring him. And so sometimes people talk about suicide, and it's really just a cry for help because they're feeling this way and they don't want to. You have to remember that mental illness is an illness and that people can be sick. And that's just like my friend Dalton Ofori. I recently found out that he committed suicide. He was having his birthday party, had a lot to drink, like everybody there, and then everybody started fighting, and rather than kicked out of the place where he was, he had his friend drive him. And I know one night I had to talk him down from committing suicide, and so he was just wrestling with those demons that were inside of him and that he just couldn't shake. And his best friend was driving him, knew him a lot longer than I did, and he opened the door while they were driving on the highway, and before she could do anything, he jumped out of the car onto oncoming traffic and was just ran over and ended up just committing suicide. And it was just like, this actually happened in 2016, but I just learned about it. And that's what really kind of motivated me to, do a suicide prevention show and do one next week because it's such an important issue and, like, we really, really need to talk about it. And so my song, um, Only Your, Only My Memories, is in honor of Dalton Ofori. I don't even know what to write. I just heard the news today. I heard you took your life. That's not okay. I wish I had been around to talk you through like I did before. So when those demons came around, you wouldn't have even opened the door. Would it have made a difference? I don't even know. All I know is the world feels different without your soul. So here I am left with your memories, the good, the bad, the beautiful. You always saw the best in me when I didn't even see it in myself. So here I am left with your pictures on my phone in front of me. The friendships I made because of you, while looking at your obituary. And I know you had your flaws, but you were always good to me. I wish I would have given you another call, so I wouldn't be left with only my memories. We're all in disbelief right now. Still don't wanna believe that it's true, but there's no coming back from the place that you went. We'll never forget you. You washed my hair, helped me with my PTSD. You took me and tried to get me to take another road. You did the best you could, gave me food to eat. I wish I had been there to convince you down another road. Would it have made a difference? I don't even know. All I know is the world feels different without your soul. So here I am left with your memories, the good, the bad, the beautiful. You always saw the best in me when I didn't even see it in myself. So here I am left with your pictures on my phone in front of me. The friendships I made because of you while looking at your obituary. And I know you had your flaws, but you were always good to me. Wish I would have given you another call, so I wouldn't be left with only my memories. When you commit suicide, you affect everyone who knew you. And depression is a real issue. Could I have been a better friend? Would I have prevented it in the end? You had your best friend around you, and I can't even imagine what she's going through. I want to be mad at you, but I know it was your disease, that thorn in your side. I just wish someone could have helped you, so you wouldn't have taken your life that night. Would it have made a difference? I don't even know. All I know is the world feels different without your soul. So here I am left with your memories, the good, the bad, the beautiful. You always saw the best in me when I didn't even see it in myself. So here I am left with your pictures on my phone in front of me. The friendships I made because of you while looking at your obituary. And I know you had your flaws, but you were always good to me. Wish I would have given you another call, so I wouldn't be left with only my memories. And I was just checking on your comments. So next is time for the interview. We're going to be talking about self-care, how to avoid burnout, and the importance of counseling and paying attention to your mental health. We're going to have the wonderful Miss Barbara Arnwine. Barbara Arnwine is the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and she is here right now. You can take a seat. Okay. Hello, everybody. Scoot in closer here. So Barbara Arnwine is the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. She is internationally renowned for her contributions on critical justice issues, including the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1991 and the 2006 reauthorization of provisions of the Voting Rights Act. Currently, she also serves as the co-chair and facilitator of the National Commission for Voter Justice, the Millennial Votes Matters convenings, and the Voting Rights Alliance. She was the head of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law from February 1989 until June 2015 and holds the honorific title of President Emeritus. She has served as the Charles Hamilton Chair for the North Carolina Central University School of Law from 2016 to 2017, and has also taught at Columbia University School of Law. She also created the legendary Voting Rights Map of Shame in 2011, which exposed the new modern wave of voter suppression in the states. Her groundbreaking civil rights and human rights advocacy has been honored with many prestigious awards. She is the radio host of Ignite and Change and is a regular presence in the national media and is often quoted in the press. A graduate of Scripps College and Duke University School of Law, she continues to champion civil rights and racial justice issues nationally and internationally in the areas of housing and lending, women's rights, especially issues affecting intersectionality in African American women and girls, community development, employment, voting, education, police restructuring, and environmental justice. Barbara is also my wonderful boss at the Transformative Justice Coalition and is my friend and mentor. So,
hi, Caitlin.
hey,
And thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be on your show. I enjoy watching it. I was watching you downstairs on the big screen and looked beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
And this is quite a bio you have, Barbara.
Oh, it makes me tired listening to it. I'm like, whoa.
I know you've done so much great work, and I know you didn't just wake up one day, you were in Congress lobbying for the Civil Rights Act, fighting class action civil rights cases. I'm always amazed when I hear more of your journey that led you to become the dynamic and powerful woman you are today. What are some of the hurdles you had to jump over in your life, and was there any really low points where you thought about or did give up?
Well, the worst part and the biggest fight in my life has been all the people who doubted me and tried to plant doubts in my head. So, when I was, as I told the story today to the Howard University law students, when I was in high school, they refused to put me in college prep track and said that I was not, quote, college material, and that I didn't come from a family that sent people to college. Whatever happened to first generation, it was just, the whole thing was I wasn't the right person, and I was told that I was just not the right person. And even at the last minute, when they finally gave in to the teachers and put me in college prep, and I was skipped over my 12th grade and was admitted to college, the principal called me into his office and told me that the college had made a horrible mistake. And I was going to embarrass myself and everybody by flunking out of college. So that kind of doubt, that uncertainty, making you feel like you're an imposter, that you're not capable of being, who you see yourself as being and who you want to be, that whole doubt that's put in your head. And, it was hard. Of course, I also, had to fight bullies and all that because I was a small person. Back then I was, when I went to college, I was soaking wet 85 pounds. And so, yes, so I always had to deal with bullies back then because I was small size and people thought they could pick on me. They made a mistake. They thought they could because they didn't know that I came from a family of 12 and that I was the first girl after 3 brothers. And so they had no idea I knew how to fight. And that I, had a strong, spirit because of that. And I think that the hardest part for me was just growing into self-love because it's easy to get up in your head and to think about all the things you've done wrong, all the things you could have done better, all the things people say negatively about you. That just gets up in your head, and you can literally lose yourself inside of your head. My hardest moments, I had 2 really difficult moments in life. One was when I was in college, and I had to take a year off because of my spinal surgery. My spine was so curved that they told me at 16 that if I didn't have surgery, corrective surgery, that I could end up hunchbacked and eventually dead because my spinal cord the nerves were so wrapped, and it was so dangerous. They said, you're just gonna, you could die from this. And I had to fight, my parents, because they didn't want me to have the surgery. Because they were afraid that the surgery could hurt me, which the doctors also said. They said, there is a chance that the surgery will be unsuccessful, or that it can do even greater damage, to your spinal cord. So it was a risk. And I was into, hey, if there's this high probability that I'm going to be dead in any event, I got to have the surgery. So, when I had, after the surgery, when I went back to school, of course, my whole class was ahead of me by a whole year, and I was with a class I didn't know. It was, and I was, and I started just feeling so alienated from everybody. And that's why I'm able to tell people, that isolation is the enemy. Is that when you isolate yourself and all you do is sit around, thinking, rethinking, overthinking. When you do that, you can really get lost. And I was, I really honestly had started referring to myself, and I know it's a term people use a lot now, but I started referring to myself as a ghost. I felt that alienated, that, different. Of course, I'm a black woman on a all-white women's campus, and there's, about 11 people of color. And did you hear me? I didn't say black folks.
No,
I said people of color on the whole campus out of, 350 at that time at Scripps. So it was an alienating environment, no matter how you looked at it. But it got, worse because of, my disconnection from the class. And you know what changed that? Because I really, really had to, I was about to spiral down. And what changed it was one day I got a knock on my door, and some of the younger black women from a number of the campuses came to see me, and they said, Barbara, we miss you. We want to know more about you. We want you to be involved. We really want to learn more about, the work that you've been doing and, in the past, and we want to connect. And they were just overjoyed. And their joy gave me joy. And it made me realize that all this stuff was in my head. That people wanted to connect. That people wanted to be, friends. And people wanted us to be together. I don't think I've ever told that story, but it's a true story. It was very, very hard period. The second period was when I first went to Duke. And, I was away from my family. I knew nobody in North Carolina. I literally knew no one. I had no distant relatives. I had nobody in North Carolina. And I went there, and I had broken up with my boyfriend because he didn't want me to go to law school. So it was I know, don't even get me started on that. It was a hard, period for me. And, of course, when you're in law school and you don't have a lot of money, and you got a lot of rich kids. I mean, we had kids who were so rich that their parents came and bought them apartments and homes so that they didn't have to worry about living in dorms. And I'm begging to live in a dorm, and so, and trying to, to have the resources to make it through school and having to work and to study at the same time. Oh, it was, that was a very difficult period. And I remember just walking one day in the snow, because remember, I'm Southern California. The worst thing in the world is snow to me. I mean, I'm scared as heck. I mean, it's just cold. I'm freezing. I don't know. I didn't know about what kind of, they didn't even sell the kind of clothes I needed in Southern California, Los Angeles, in the desert. So they didn't sell.
They don't even sell snow gloves.
Right. They didn't sell any of this stuff. So I had my little light coat on, which was a joke. Little flannel coat, and had no idea, how cold it was going to be, and, they had no kind of boots on, so skidding on the ice and everything. And I just remember saying, Lord, can I really keep moving? Can I just even move another step? How in the world am I going to survive? I just feel like everything is against me. And it's just so bad. And I felt, extremely awful in that moment. And I know this is hard to say, but also in that moment, I just suddenly felt this just overflowing of love. And it really just an overflowing of love. No voices, none of that, but just this warm feeling of it's going to be all right. And that feeling almost floored me more than what probably was, my little momentary depression. And I was, very, very moved by that feeling, and
it helped.
Oh, thank you. You're always so nurturing, so kind, and that made all the difference, Caitlin. And so those were two really difficult moments. When my father died, I had to do some counseling because I missed him so much. And we hadn't reconciled a whole lot of issues. In the black community, counseling is considered like, giving up your soul to the devil or something.
Got the stigma.
The stigma. I couldn't tell anybody I was doing counseling. I couldn't say a word. And it was so tough because, Duke was a tough law school, and the black students were, we didn't have the unity we should have had, the support, because of the competition and the self-hatred and all the other issues we had among ourselves. So it was tough, and so there wasn't, that kind of sharing. It wasn't an environment that was safe to share in. And I didn't have the networks around me to share. And as I got older, the one thing I've learned, and as I was saying to the students today, that the most important thing is to surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with people who you can be safe with and
just
honest with.
Just like the women that came to you.
Right. I mean, who surrounded me, right? And I have no idea what their discussion was. I don't know if they just felt, hey, they needed somebody who knew more about African customs, and they knew I knew. I don't know if it was that they just wanted to, build, more, because I had fought in my freshman year for the Black Studies Center, and I don't know if they just felt that they wanted somebody who was more connected to that fight. I don't know what it was, but it was a gift. When they showed up at my door to just say, we miss you, hugging, brought some cake or something. Hey, sugar doesn't hurt. It was a turning point. And I just, I think that people don't understand the power that they have. That's one thing in life, is that people underestimate your own power. And people underestimate, what the power of a good word means to people. The power of a good gesture.
Yeah.
Remember, I've seen people depressed, and they've gone to stores, gotten into the line, and suddenly discovered they didn't have enough money to pay for the food. And somebody paid it forward. Yeah. And said, hey, miss, don't worry about that. I'll pay for your food. And I've seen it just turn people's attitudes and giving them hope. We have power, and that didn't take a lot. Like today when we were driving, and the man, the poor guy was out in the street, homeless, and he wanted, he was trying to get somebody to give him something. And all the cars were passing, ignoring him, and we were stopped. And I said, Caitlin, I don't have any $1 bills. And you said, you looked in your purse and you said, I don't either. You said, but here. And you gave a $5.
Yeah.
And that man walked different after he got his $5, because
you never know what will affect.
Oh my God, absolutely. And that people see you, right? And
Yes.
people recognize you in that space. And everybody has that power to do that for somebody.
And I know you've actually done that for me, because some of the advice you've given to me was that I deserve good things and that I should let myself be happy and let good things happen. I also remember one night, it was after an event, National Women's Political Caucus,
Yeah.
actually, and we were talking in the car, we were eating food and talking in the car, and you said something I will never forget. In fact, it was the first time that I heard the term self-care. You told me that there's a difference between selfishness and self-care. What is the difference between selfishness and self-care, and how did you learn the difference between them?
It's a hard one, because a lot of people believe that to focus on themselves is selfish, and they fear that. They believe that, that if you take an hour just to be by yourself, to read or to relax, listen to good music, to reminisce, to talk with friends, that somehow you're being antisocial, that you're not doing whatever. But sometimes you need that space, just that space to meditate, to withdraw for a minute and just go to peace. Not the space to go into turmoil now. I ain't talking about that. Sitting around hating and all the rest of it, and hating on myself. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the space where you just need to have some, peaceful time, where you're meditating, where you're thinking. And people will tell you that you're being selfish, but the reality is you're caring for yourself. That's part of self-care. Millions of mothers right now are sitting somewhere feeling really, really down. They don't know why they're down. They don't understand it because they don't know that they spent the entire week caring for other people and haven't done a thing for themselves. I'm not talking about being narcissistic. We know you're pretty. We know you look good if you get dressed up and go out. I'm not talking about being narcissistic. I'm just talking about the ability to say, I got to make sure that I'm healthy. Healthy means not just physically healthy, taking all your medicines and eating right, but healthy means that I'm mentally healthy too. That I've allowed myself to grieve. Because, Aretha Franklin passed.
Yes.
I mean, she was big in my life in the sense of, I didn't know her personally, but her music got me through many a day.
And music has the power to
Oh
do that.
my goodness, absolutely. So, so that's not just something where, I just read a headline. That's a loss.
Yeah.
And, you feel it. You feel it in your soul, and you need to give your soul time to, process things. And to the other thing I had to teach myself, because I'm one of those people, high energy people. And high energy people, we got to be careful. What do they call them? A-type personalities. We got to be very careful because one thing we can do is move a lot without sleep, without a lot of sleep. And I've come to learn that part of self-care is also getting enough rest. Letting your body have that time to decompress. Let your mind rest so that it can do what it does when it's sleeping, to clear out all the toxins, to get well, to organize thoughts and everything. So I've learned, because I lived most of my life sleeping 4 to 6 hours max.
Yeah.
And 6 hours was considered really long. And my body still wants to wake up after 4 hours.
And we live in a culture that promotes unhealthy practices.
Exactly, and worships that.
Yes.
Oh, so-and-so, they're up until 2, they're back up at 6. Oh, that's so wonderful. No, it's not.
Right.
That's not healthy. That there's nothing chemically healthy about that. Can people do it? Of course they can. Are they the best when they do it? I don't know now. Some evidence that, some of these, quote, high personality types like Steve Jobs and others were not nice people. It could have been because they didn't rest, that they didn't do the proper self-care, that they didn't have that ability to be alone, to love themselves. Because sometimes people fear that their biggest enemy is themselves because
Right.
of all those thoughts they got that they
Yes.
haven't, worked through and processed, all those fears, all those insecurities. So they don't want to be alone. So they push themselves too hard. They drive themselves too hard.
Teddy Roosevelt, wasn't that really his philosophy?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, have that philosophy. And I just want to say, hey, I love the millennial generation because you guys got it right. Don't do that. Don't work yourself to death. Have a much better life work balance and self care. Put it high on your menu. And I've learned that really, I mean, the term self care, I didn't know it. I learned it from millennials.
Really?
Yeah, from a millennial friend. When she started talking about she was doing self care, and I said, well, darn it, that's a great term. And I adopted it. We have to, look at things that work and innovative ways to live.
And how can people get in contact with you?
Oh, they can always reach me at, B. Arnwine. They can reach me at Barbara Arnwine.com. That's BARBARAARNWINE.com.
And that's where you host with there. They can also go to listen to your weekly radio show.
Oh,
where you do talk about
absolutely.
issues like this.
Oh, yes, because listen, I meant it when I said, today when I was talking to the law students about how many people I've known who were amazing leaders, amazing activists, and they burned out.
Right.
They just, literally disappeared. And it's not, and it turned out that they just got tired. They got overwhelmed. They got scared about, their sense that they weren't going to be able to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. They got tired of the spotlight, all the expectations that people had of them. They got tired. And they probably had nobody they could tell. No safe space to even express these feelings. And so, when I was talking about, looking at some of the Ferguson activists who I've been studying and following, and looking at the ones who had a hard time. And most of them had hard times because it was just difficult dealing with the police and that whole situation and all the way that they mishandled that situation and mistreated the protesters. But a lot of folks also was that internal community struggle. Because when you're in, in a movement, you're going to get a lot of criticism from everybody, including the people you thought should be your closest allies. You're going to get a lot of, and some people, at least, I've tracked at least 3 suicides out of that movement. And it just became too much because, as we were talking with the students today, James Baldwin said to be conscious, to be politically conscious, is to be in a constant state of rage.
Right.
And the reality is that nobody can be in a constant state of rage.
Right.
Because your body will burn itself. You got to be able to have that consciousness, have that anger at the injustice, but also to be tempered by the hope and having hope because you know that you're out there fighting for good. And that you're accomplishing good, or that you helped somebody today to feel good, or you did something good. Have that. You got to balance, in your life. Have some kind of, ability to have, protection of your, as I say it, your mind space.
Yes.
And the other thing I wanted to say, I heard you speaking about the loss of your friend, and it's hard to tell people that that you're not responsible for other people's actions, because we all want to believe if I were there that I could have made a
Yes.
difference. But let's talk about some of the ways people can make a difference.
Yes.
There's some recommendations that I was looking at about so many people have depression.
Yes.
Depression, I've had it. Everybody's gone to depression. I never even thought I had depression until I thought back about my life. I said, yeah, that sounds like somebody who's depressed. The first thing they say is before you can really help somebody, they say study depression. Find out what mood disorders are, how it affects people, so that you and try to understand what kind of disorder your friend has. Is it lightweight depression, heavy depression, chronic depression? Then they say something I would never have thought about. They say ask questions and dig for the root cause. To ask people when did they first start feeling bad. To ask people, can you think of anything that may have triggered the mood you're in right now? Do you have suicidal thoughts? Something I would never have thought they asked anyone. They say, but if they're exhibiting, if a friend is really having a lot of symptoms of depression, that you need to ask that question, because how they respond is very important. And that is there anything that makes you feel better? That what makes you feel worse? And sometimes people say, yeah, I'm talking to you. I don't want to talk about it.
I know Justin also told me, we've been discussing this for really the past 2 weeks. And I know he also told me one of the things that you could do is also ask somebody, do you remember a time when you felt happy?
Yes.
And you can get there again.
Absolutely. To remind people it's temporary.
Exactly.
They said that that's really important, that people forget when you get caught up in that web and you're going down what they call the rabbit hole. You're spiraling down, you're spiraling down, you're spiraling down, and everything's negative, negative, negative. You got to remind people that it's temporary.
Yes. That
this is a temporary problem. They also say, you should ask people, are they under stress? And then the third recommendation is that you need to help people identify and cope with stress. Because stress is the biggest trigger. Financial stress, relationship stress, stress of expectations, performance stress. All those things are triggers of depression. Because your body's being asked to do a lot and it's very, very difficult. And they say one thing that you can help people do is to help people just breathe. When you take yoga, they do a lot of deep breathing exercises. When people are under stress, the best thing you can do is take a deep breath. A couple of them. And sometimes when you're in a bad situation that's really causing you a lot of stress, when you're talking to somebody and you're fighting and everybody's arguing, removing yourself from the bad situation. Don't keep arguing just to argue. Don't do that. Don't put yourself through that stress. Don't do stuff. Don't keep saying yes when you know you need to say no.
Yes, that's very important.
That.
To say no.
Then they say encourage people to seek out a support group. And then here's one, number 5, remind someone that they are incredibly strong. They've gotten through all these years, that they have a lot inside of them. Always reminding people they're positives, that they got courage, stamina, that they love people, that they have compassion, that they have integrity, perseverance, those things. Then the 6th one will blow people's minds. They say make them laugh. So laughter is the greatest healer of all.
Laughter is the best medicine.
Exactly, and that and help people to just laugh. That it sounds cruel, but actually, it has been a very effective therapy when people have been severely depressed. And like we just said, let them know they won't always feel this way. And then the last thing, which is the hardest one, is to just listen. Let people talk. If they want to talk, they want to share what they're feeling. Don't be judgmental. Let them just get it out.
Yes. And if you need to talk, once again, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number at 1-800-273-8255. They're available 24 hours a day. Thank you for joining us for this very special, important episode. We will continue next week.
I do not have Caitlin's gift of singing. I'll scare everybody off this show. if I tried to sing a word right now. But I just want to say, Caitlin, thank you for your heart. You not only bring to the show your gift of singing, and your talents of songwriting and poetry and just everything, but you also bring to the show your heart, your compassion, your love, your justice, your sense of justice. Just and you and I both have seen the dark places that we've
Yes.
been in our in our souls. We know those corners where the demons have run, and we've had to come out of those. So so we say to everybody watching, thank you. You're blessed to have this great host, and I am honored to have been on the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for
Thank you
coming.
so much. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody that joined. This is a very important issue and a very important topic, and we will pick this up next week for part 2 of the suicide prevention. So, thank you guys for joining. Share this video if you think it could help anybody, and have a good night. Deuces. I think I'm going to have to stop it from my computer. Let me see. Oh.